Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanandi. Lila Manjari? Lila Manjari? What's the title that your husband has for his occupation? He's a professor or a researcher in what field? Food technology. So the food technology scholar gave an answer to the question, is there research in the benefits of milk? Lots of research, according to Namarushi. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, Govinda. Not cooperating. There we go. Here we go. Numerous scientific studies show that consumption of milk aids in development of brain, increases neurocognitive development, influences exploratory behavior in those who are consuming milk, provides protection to the brain from certain types of oxidative brain injury, and provides protection against some damages caused by aging and age-related diseases. We'll take his word for it. And there was another question that I raised yesterday, and like 6 people answered the question. A godbrother had said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that Vaisnava Etiquette is the crown jewel. Well, it wasn't quite like that. Here it is from Antya Lila. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says to Sanatana Goswami, although you are the deliverer of the entire universe, and although even the demigods and great saints are purified by touching you, it is the characteristic of devotees to observe and protect the Vaisnava etiquette. Maintenance of the Vaisnava etiquette is the ornament of a devotee. So it didn't say crown jewel, that's why I couldn't find it, but here's quite similar. And maybe I don't remember what my godbrother said. Maybe he said just what it says here. So that's some housekeeping from yesterday. The plan, as I described yesterday, is to lay out the principle of respect in the matter of Vaishnava etiquette, and then to go through, starting today, Gaura Lila, and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exemplifies those teachings of etiquette. Particularly, I'm going to be spending time with the topics that Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave, respect to humans. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made his travel, going in the southerly direction, travel in South India, ostensibly to look for his brother Vishwarup, one of the places he came was a village where there was a leper. And the leper was a Vaishnava, and Vaishnavas sometimes also get disease. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was respecting him as a human, and he recognized his character. But his character was that there were worms that were eating away at his body. When a worm would fall out, he'd put the worm back in place because pretty unusual behavior, but that's what he did. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced him. And when he embraced him, the leprosy was gone, like a miracle cure. So both because he was a devotee, as we heard that list yesterday, respect most of all goes to one who is a devotee, but respect to a human being. There's a very nice pastime where this is a painting illustrating. Those of you that have been to Puri, you know how small the Gambhira is. It's very small, very, very small. And it was the practice of Govinda that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would rest, Transcendental Yoga Nidra, right? He would rest, he would massage his legs. And on one occasion, he was situated in such a way that to massage his legs, he had to step over his body to massage his legs. However, after stepping over his body and massaging his legs while Mahaprabhu was resting, he didn't step back over Mahaprabhu's body to exit. He stayed there until Mahaprabhu woke up, and Mahaprabhu said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "I was waiting until you woke up." Well, anyway, because in service, we don't step over other living entities, we don't step over stuff, we don't step over bodies, we don't step over people. We don't do that. It's an etiquette. However, Govinda was illustrating in service, no, ideally, what is it that we do that's not in service? If we're properly situated, it's always in service. One explanation of Prabhupada in Los Angeles was, don't even walk across the lawn, stepping on grass, unless it's in service. And insects in the grass get trampled by your stepping, so don't do that unless it's in service. Just on this Vaisnava etiquette principle, there's a very nice explanation given in Mahabharata. I'll just share it quickly. Bhima and Hanuman were both sons of the same father. When there was a period of time when the four Pandavas were looking for Arjuna, they headed into the Himalayas, and floating down the river, one of the tributaries of the Ganges, was a 100-petal or 1,000-petaled lotus flower. It was very, very beautiful. And Draupadi found it. And she wanted to give it as a gift to to Yudhisthira. And she asked Bhima, where this came from, there's probably more lotus flowers. Could you get some more? And off he goes. And leaping and bounding and traveling, because he was son of Vayu, he could travel like that. And he came across a monkey that was right in the path. You know the story? And he said, "My dear monkey, could you kindly move?" And the monkey said, "I'm too tired, I'm too old." And there's a discussion back and forth, and finally he said, "Why don't you just jump over me?" And Hanuman said, "Because Super Soul is within the heart of every living entity, including monkeys, and we don't step over bodies because Super Soul is within the heart of every living entity. And if I had the ability, I would have done it long ago, just like the best of all monkeys, Hanuman, flew across the ocean. I could do the same. Anyway, the dialogue goes on. But the principle of why not, according to Bhima, or according to Dharma, super soul is within. There's a soul, and there's super soul, and the respect goes, of course, to the soul and as well to super soul within. We know this pastime is described by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami. It's from a different scripture, but the pastime of Marari the Hunter. And Marari the Hunter was half killing, and Narada said, don't half kill them completely, and so forth and so on and so forth and so on. He, Marari, became the devotee of Narada. And in submission to Narada, Narada said, throw away your bow and go live in the cottage with your family. Well, how will I maintain myself? Don't worry, I'll maintain you. You know the story. And when he came back again with Angira to see Angira Muni, to see his disciple, the disciple saw Narada came running, but stopped because there were some ants on the path. So he was respecting even an ant. He who was ready to half kill animals as a sport is now unprepared to harm even an ant. Marari the Hunter. So these are narrations to help us understand from Gaura Lila practical examples of respect in different ways. One of the items in Bhakti Vinod Thakur's list is according to one's position, Raja, Marada. So, pastime was performed by Nimai Pandit when, on the occasion of the departure, the decease of his father, he went to Gaya to perform this ritual of Shraddha. And when he went, what's shown in the painting here is the lotus footprint of Lord Vishnu. It's up on the top of the hill. And the person next to him, that's his guru, he just happened to meet Ishwara Puri while there. And Ishwara Puri gave him mantra diksha. But, so he's respecting his guru, but he's respecting his father. And respecting, of course, the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. So respect according to position. Thoroughly, the personality of Godhead and in his associates likewise exhibit respect. In the case of his mother, of course it was a Leela, he just left his mother and his wife. You know, just not even Haribol, just see you guys later. And took sannyas. And after taking sannyas, by trick, Nityananda arranged for him to go to the house of Advaita Acharya, and Mother Sachi was brought. And Mother Sachi requested him to not go to Vrindavan, which is what he wanted to do. So his life direction changed simply out of respect for his mother. Of course, it's Leela as well. That is love for Krishna and separation. No, love for Krishna and separation, although Jagannath is Krishna. But then it gets into the deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. What's the mood of Jagannath? What's the mood of Jagannath Ratha Yatra? What's the mood of Jagannath Puri? What's the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu while residing in Jagannath Puri? It was the ecstasy of love in separation. But back to the respect. In the course of the Lila, he's respecting his mother. And this is a nice painting. The same artist painted all these paintings. This is the son of Maharaj Prataparudra. Because Maharaj Prataparudra was very enthusiastic to meet Lord Chaitanya, who refused to meet the king because he's the king. And sannyasis don't meet with kings. At least that was the position he was taking. And so cleverly somebody said, why don't you give your mercy to the son of the king? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced the son of the king, and the king felt ecstasy. The son of the king felt ecstasy. And when the king embraced his son, he felt ecstasy. He gave his association without giving his association through the son. And then, of course, later he gave his association by another method under the indication of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. The king was trained how to recite certain verses from the Bhagavatam while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was resting in the Jagannath Vallabh garden halfway through Rath Yatra. And when Lord Chaitanya heard the verses that he was reciting, he embraced him. And then he was, oh no, you're the king. That's a Leela. The principle of respect going to position. The principle of respect going to one who has knowledge. This is a very nice painting. This is Keshava Kashmiri. It was the sport in those days for those who were very, very scholarly to go here and there and go to other places where there were seats of high learning, as Navadvip was. I mean, like a university, or a place where it was known that brahmanas with high learning would stay. And he went to Navadvip. Keshava Kashmiri was a Digvijay Pandit. He would travel and engage in debate. He would challenge somebody in debate. And the rules of debate was, there must have been some referee, but whoever won the debate, the loser would have to become his disciple. And any followers of that loser would become the disciple of the one that won the debate. So he was traveling here and there and gathering followers by debating the most learned persons. And so he came, Keshava Kashmiri came to Navadvip knowing it was a seat of high learning, and he inquired, who's the most learned person I want to debate? Whoever that is. And everyone mentioned Nimai Pandit's name. At the time, Nimai Pandit was just a teenager. But even as a teenager, he was recognized as the most learned person. So one day, as the pastime goes, Keshava Kashmiri was walking along the Ganga, and on the side of the Ganga, under a tree, there was Nimai Pandit with his many students teaching grammar, Sanskrit grammar. That was his school, teaching Sanskrit grammar. And Keshava Kashmiri came over and wanted to know who he was, with all these students around him. And he gave his name. And, he's ready to debate him, but Nimai instead said, you're Keshava Kashmiri, you're a very learned person. Could you compose some verses on glorification or in honor of Ganga? The man was really proud. Oh yes, no problem. And he composed spontaneously 100 Sanskrit verses in glorification of Mother Ganges. And when he finished, the expression is like the blowing of the wind. He just like nonstop. And when the bell rang, when at 100 he stopped. And Nimai said, "Oh, all that I've heard about your scholarship is all true. But can I ask you one question? In verse number 64, could you describe to me the qualities and the faults, lakshana and doshas?" And Kesava Kashmiri said, "Well, I just composed the verses. I don't remember verse number 64. And then Nimai recited verse number 64. So he recognized, yes, that was the verse. How did you remember it? Nimai said, some persons have the gift for composing Sanskrit poetry, and some persons have the gift of memory. Could you tell me what the qualities and faults were in verse number 64? And all qualities and no faults. And Nimai, if you like, I can share with you both the qualities and the faults. He was taken aback. And sure enough, the qualities, it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the students started giggling. You know, they were laughing at Kesava Kashmiri, the learned fellow that was being defeated by Nimai, their teacher. Nimai didn't like, I'm victorious, you got to become my student, which is the rule. He just said, oh, let us meet again tomorrow. This exchange was so nice. And knowing, so the point is, although knowing Kesava Kashmiri was completely proud, and he demonstrated his pride, he respected him because of his learning, and he was learned. Although proud, he was learned. Another item in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's list of where respect should go, respect according to ashram. He specifically mentions the sannyas ashram. This is a nice painting indicating when Ishwara Puri came to visit Navadvip, Nimai made it a point to get his association, offering his respect to Ishwara Puri. This is not where the initiation occurred. The initiation occurred later at Gaya. But Ishwara Puri requested, Nimai, I hear you're a super scholar in Sanskrit grammar. Can you read my writings, and if you find some mistakes, you can suggest how to correct the mistakes? And of course, Nimai said, you're a perfect person, and I'm sure there's going to be no mistakes, so I wouldn't be so audacious as to suggest there could be some mistake. So he was expressing humility and respect in front of the sannyasi, who later became his mantra guru. While respecting the order of sannyas, there's another very interesting and a little difficult to discern, to understand what happened with Chota Haridas. So there's Bada Haridas, that's Haridas Thakur, and there's Chota Haridas, because there were two Haridases, so to distinguish big and small, Bada and Chota. So Chota Haridas was requested by Balaramacharya to get some ingredients so that some cooking could be done for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he, accepting the order of Bhagavan Acharya, he went to the home of Madhavi to collect alms. And those alms were then prepared. Mahaprabhu tasted. He liked what he tasted. He asked where it came from. And it was then said, oh, it's accepted as alms by Chota Haridas. He went to the home of Madhavi, your devotee. It doesn't say, at least I haven't come across, what it says was the violation, but some dilly-dallying apparently and unnecessary talk between a sannyasi and Madhavi. And Mahaprabhu said, this is a transgression of Vaisnava etiquette. And you can tell that low-class person, so-called sannyasi, he should not come before me ever again. And that news was passed on to Chota Haridas, who was greatly distressed because he was so devoted. And, different attempts to persuade Mahaprabhu to, go a little lighter. And his reply was, if you pester me like this, I'm leaving Puri. So they stopped pestering him. And feeling what he was feeling, that he's not going to get Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's association, he went to a holy place and drowned himself in the sacred river. And when news was passed on to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, good. This is the fit behavior or consequence for someone who has violated the order of sannyas. And pretty strict. Mahaprabhu was very, very... Part of the idea is holding the position of the gopis in such a high place at the same time. So in other words, fully transcendental, because the dealings between a sannyasi and ladies is to be strictly observed. Strictly observed. And, giving up your life if there's a violation, strict. Yet holding the gopis in such a high position. And entering into that same mood himself, as did Madhavendra Puri, etc. So later it was, the painting is, Chota Haridas would come in this, looked like an angel form, and sing, because he was in addition to a sannyasi, who was a renowned, beautiful singer. Some people have good voices. Some people don't have good voices. But he had a very wonderful voice, and so he would sing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by the sea at night, going looking for Krishna. And then Chota Haridas would sing for him. Loving dealing. There's a description, not in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but in another scripture, on the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There was a contemporary young student. His name was Raghunath Shiromani. Raghunath Shiromani was very scholarly, as was Nimai, very scholarly. And Raghunath Shiromani had written a commentary on a certain book called Tattva Chintamani. And he was kind of anxious that it become a well-accepted commentary on Tattva Viveka, Tattva Chintamani. However, one day when they're crossing the Ganga in a boat, he heard from Nimai that he had also written a commentary on Tattva Chintamani. And you see his reaction, he looked pretty sad. That's Raghunath Shiromani on the other side of the boat. So seeing his sadness, the painting is showing Nimai took his commentary on this book and tossed it in the Ganga, out of respect for the enthusiasm of Raghunath, that his learned composition would be respected. And according to the commentaries, it became a very well-known text. But Mahaprabhu, or Nimai Pandit, just deferring to the learned friend. So another example of respecting those that have learning occurred in Puri. There's a well-known event, a nice painting as well. This is Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya with thousands of students wanting to render some service to this 24-year-old sannyasi to protect him by teaching Vedanta. And because of Lila, but as well as because of respect, he respected Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and sat for 7 days and just heard him explaining Vedanta Sutra. You all know the pastime. And as the pastime goes on, 7 days, there's Mahaprabhu sitting there, motionless, listening, no response, no blinking, just like hearing. So on the 8th morning, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, "You're not saying anything. I don't know if you're understanding or not understanding. You know the pastime." And Mahaprabhu said, "Well, the more you speak, the more you're covering the meaning of Vedanta Sutra." "Oh, well, if you have the understanding of Vedanta Sutra, then you please explain." And here's Mahaprabhu explaining only at the request of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya the meaning of Vedanta Sutra. And when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, because he was so learned, he was not one of those learned persons that's stuck and they only know what they know and anything else doesn't go in. He understood what Nimai Pandit what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was teaching him, and he was astounded and said, "I'd never heard anything like this before." And just from hearing from him, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, "You're not just a young sannyasi, you're the personality of Godhead. You have understood Vedanta Sutra in such a way that's unknown in the world before you." Mahaprabhu smiled, and according to Chaitanya Bhagavat, he showed his 6-armed form, the Sadbhuja form. And needless to say, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was impressed. He fainted. This young sannyasi isn't a young sannyasi. He's the personality of Godhead. So while respecting the position of learning, it's perfectly, in Gaura Lila, it's perfectly appropriate that the person who Lord Chaitanya is respecting may understand at least, his actual position. He gave respect to those who are devotees, bhakti maryada. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu giving instructions in Jagannath Puri to, I don't know exactly which of the 6 Goswamis, but he instructed both Sanatana and Rupa to an extended degree in Jagannath Puri, because they're devotees, and he was giving the devotees further and further and further illumination in bhakti teachings. He gave immense respect, we saw this yesterday at the very end, to Haridas Thakur because of his bhakti. And as we heard, Haridas Thakur said, "You're honoring me with great adoration in the company of aristocratic and learned brahmanas. But something that you don't touch a dead body, Mahaprabhu, when Haridas Thakur left his body, he carried his body in kirtan, here and there and elsewhere, and made personal arrangements for the body to be washed in the sea, and the samadhi, personally arranging the funeral rites of Haridas Thakur. So the respect going to bhakti. And how many here, is there anybody here that has not received some documents that were sent out to everyone who was supposed to receive that registered for this class? Anyone didn't receive? Okay. So one of the documents that you received is the explanation of this, which is a very interesting painting. Did you get Radha Krishna? Okay, you make an arrangement. So I'm going to narrate a little bit, but the compliments goes to Vaisnava Swami. Some of you know who Vaisnava Swami is, and if you don't, get to know him. He's from the earliest days that I met him, he was immersed in Gaura Lila. It's like he loves Gaura Lila. And so when I found this painting, I didn't know what was the story behind the painting. And I searched and searched and couldn't find the story behind the painting. So I just sent the painting to Vaisnava Swami, and he sent me the document that I sent you with, 16 different references all in one package, and then details and details. It has to do with a very dear associate, devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that devotee was a Vaidya, or physician, Marari Gupta, by name and by position. They were near contemporaries, and as you know, I'll summarize what's in that document, but it's just a very detailed document. Nimai, when he was young, so the period, it's Chaitanya Mangala, that's the source of this painting, the story. When he was young, Nimai, around 5 years of age, he had a teacher, Gangadas Pandit was his teacher. And his teacher was astounded by his student's capacity. So there's this enigmatic explanation of Nimai with teachers, with peers, with elders, with anyone. His scholarship was otherworldly. He would make a statement and ask others to explain the statement. They couldn't explain the statement. He'd explain the statement. They were, oh, wow. And then he'd refute the statement and the explanation of the statement and present a counterposition and ask anyone to please refute it. And they couldn't refute it. And then he would refute the counter statement and make another synthesis statement that was yet a third statement, and ask anyone, you challenge anyone, please refute it. He was like, etc. He was, by Leela, establishing that tarka apratishta. By scholarship, you can't establish truth. Someone may be a good logician, and then somewhere there's another better logician, and somewhere there's another better logician, and there's nothing stable in the realm of logic. We use logic. Prabhupada used logic all the time. Mahaprabhu uses logic also. But it's not the final. It's not stable. So his teacher, Gangadas Pandit, said, "You're going to be the most brilliant teacher and student and teacher in all of Navadvip. And with humility, that would only be possible by your mercy." So he had the characteristics of a learned person without being proud, because learned persons are, unfortunately, commonly proud, often at least, proud. So now, Marari Gupta, this little document that you have received, Marari Gupta, in his spiritual identity, he's Hanuman. So he was a Ram Bhakta. There's like lots of descriptions of his Ram Bhakti. Here's one. Later, when Mahaprabhu's, they're both a little older, the house of Marari Gupta was not far. That light of the sun is right in my eyes. I'm going to do something. Maybe move the chair or something. You have a suggestion? Say it again. Say it slower.
Can we move the background?
Okay, you can just stand there. Yeah. There. That's great. It's much easier. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, look at this. Okay. It's right in my eye. It's a bright spotlight right in my eye. It's over there. See the sun? I'm sorry. This is going to happen each morning, at least this time of the year. Okay, very good, very good, very good, very good, very good. More than very good. Those of you that are behind the curtain, sorry about that. Okay, okay. There's a nice pastime that's not in this document, that when Mahaprabhu was a householder, he would come to see his dear, worshipable friend. Because in this Lila that we're going to describe, that's in the document, he came to understand that Lord Chaitanya, or Nimai Pandit, is the personality of Godhead, not just a learned fellow. So he went to see him, and Chaitanya, and now in his Grahastha stage, Gauranga requested, Marari, I know you like chanting Ram's name. Can you chant Krishna's name? Because he was requested, he went home and he tried, but he couldn't give it up, chanting Ram's name. He's Hanuman. How can Hanuman give up chanting Ram's name? No. So he came back the next day crying. Lord Nityananda was with him, crying, please take away that instruction. I can't do it. Lord Ramachandra is the Lord of my life. And Lord Chaitanya then said, I did this just to examine, because he wanted to see, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to see the feature of Marari Gupta's mood of Hanuman. So he did things from time to time to inspire the exhibition of that mood. And he was very happy. He didn't want him to give up being a Ram Bhakta. He wanted him to exhibit his Ram Bhakti in an extraordinary way, which he did. So, in their youth, as was common in Navadvip, many persons were not Vaishnavas, but they were scholars. And although he was Ram Bhakta, he had a liking for Yoga Vashishta, which can have impersonal meanings or interpretations. So the document describes, or Chaitanya Mangala describes, he was lecturing to others, because he was kind of like a leader amongst other young people, young students in Navadvip, on Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma and Soham. These sutras, or some very simple statements from the Vedas that impersonalists like and render the way that they like to render those statements. And as he was walking and gesturing with his arms, Nimai was following right behind him, mocking him and overemphasizing the arm gestures, and then Nimai was funny. So as he was doing what he was doing, his followers, his students were with him, and they started giggling. And Marari looked back and saw what the giggling was coming from, and he understood, this is Nimai, he's making fun of me. But so he went on and went on, and at a certain point, mimicking and imitating and making fun of Marari stopped, because there's too much laughter, and said, this is not becoming one who is the son of Jagannath Mishra. He brought in his father. Nimai said he didn't like that. So he said, I'll teach you a lesson tomorrow at lunch. And then left. So lunch the next day, Marari, young man, this shows him with a little bit of a beard, but he was still young. He was preparing to have lunch, but he was, although he had this quarreling way with Nimai, he had affection for him. And so in his mind's eye, he was envisioning this beautiful young boy, Nimai, Pandit. And then whether he came to his door or he imagined he came to his door, Nimai came to his door. And Marari wanted to honor him, just like he was so charmed by his beauty. And Nimai said, just carry on and have your lunch. And then he was having his lunch. That's what the painting is showing. He did this not very nice thing. He passed urine on his lunch. And said, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. So why are you upset? And then he scolded him and said, Marari, give this up. Give up this impersonal liking. You're a great personality. So he was scolding him, he was behaving in a disrespectful way in order to bring his dear devotee friend to the position of devotion. We don't imitate this kind of behavior. But he did what he did for the benefit of Marari, and Marari understood. Just with that, Nimai, poof, he just disappeared. So was it a dream? Was it reality? And the next day, he went to the house of Jagannath Mishra, and he saw Nimai hiding in his mother's cloth, like a little boy, hiding from Marari, like he's going to scold me. And Marari paid his obeisances to Nimai. Jagannath Mishra said, what are you doing? This will bring great misfortune to your son, to my son. And Jagannath Mishra said, Marari said, one day you'll understand who your son is. In other words, by that exchange, there's more to the document. You read it, it's very, very... Vaisnava Swami's language is very sweet. I mean, the pastimes are amazing, and the details of the pastimes are amazing, and his language is very sweet. I didn't have to edit anything, it's just his language. There was a very intimate relationship between the two, that because it's an eternal relationship. Mahaprabhu is the personality of God. It's Krishna himself, but Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Within Krishna is everything. So later, in the Mahaprakash Lila, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed Marari the form of Lord Ramachandra, Lakshman, Sita, and Hanuman. Within the personality of Godhead is everything. So naturally had affection for this dear, dear, dear devotee of Lord Ramachandra, not because he was worshipping a different form of the Lord than he was, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's a very amazing, charming relationship. There's another nice pastime. It's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's a BBT artwork depicting one day, because the houses were reasonably close together, Mahaprabhu stood up and he was in an ecstatic mood, the mood of Lord Varaha. And he came to where Marari was engaged in worship of Lord Ramachandra, and there was a pot. And Mahaprabhu manifested a form of Lord Varaha and got really big and took the pot on his snout or his tusks and lifted it up in the air like he was lifting the Mother Earth, rescuing from the Garbadak Ocean, and roaring as a shukra, as a boar would roar. Marari was astonished. He was getting the opportunity to see firsthand, he's the personality of Godhead for sure. And so because of the loving dealings between them, this illustration is to help bring Marari away from the path of knowledge and instead to the path of devotion, respecting his devotion and assisting him in a very unique way. So there's the conclusion of this morning's class. We'll just do a little summary statement. The theme of my particular presentation is the role of respect in Vaisnava etiquette. And we heard teachings and principles, and now we're hearing examples of those teachings and principles. It's kind of how the Puranas and Itihasas embellish or bring to life teachings that are in Shastra or in the Shrutis. The Smritis explain the Shrutis. There's not difference. And to see the connection, what does it look like when one offers respect to a learned person, one offers respect to a devotee, one offers respect to a human, one offers respect to an ant? What does it look like? So it's a principle of etiquette for a Vaishnava. And what does it look like? We have nice examples. Now, the nice examples don't cover everything. I mean, the discussion yesterday was really nice because, the focus was what it was, but the application of those principles then becomes, where we have to make decisions and act on a principle of respect. And how do you do that when there's this situation, that situation, the other situation? We'll encounter some of that this evening in Ramayana. There's a number of situations that were very conflicting, and Lord Ramachandra exhibited perfectly. Marada Purushottama. The perfection of Marada. No, Marada Purushottama commonly means he's the strict follower of Dharma. But Marada is the word that's used to describe him. He's the emblem of perfect Dharma. He's the emblem of perfect respect. In sometimes extreme ways. So that's the purpose of going through these examples, because they're powerful, and they make very colorful and very clear the principle of Vaisnava etiquette. Specifically, the Vaisnava etiquette begins with respect. Let's see if there's some discussion. There he is again, first hand up.
Sorry, thank you, Guru Maharaj. When you gave the example of Lord Chaitanya respecting knowledge or learning with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, then obviously very graphic, as you say, the respect, but he also confronted Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in a very respectful way, but in a way that he confronted something that it was not going to be pleasing to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He was taken aback and not very happy in one sense about that confrontation. But so, in principle, this not necessarily being respect, not necessarily being submissive to everything that comes.
Yeah, of course. The principle is respect that goes to the soul, not to the mind. We don't pat minds, but we respect the soul. We honor, so he's a vastly learned personality. So that was respected. And then to demonstrate 7 days sitting there, 7 days. Then, but his words were not false. You're covering the meaning of Vedanta Sutra the more you speak. Really? So, one can speak the truth that may not be what the other person wants to hear, but from the position of respect, that becomes possible. So because he's elder, he's learned, he's young sannyasi, so the sannyasi is to be honored, so therefore he's sitting on a nice seat, but the purpose was to give protection. The learned giving protection to the young sannyasi. He's doing it as a service. So, the answer to your question is yes.
Marge, you gave different examples of the receivers of respect, like respect to a sannyasi, devotee, and I was curious, is there anything about, or how should we think about giving respect to the elderly? If there's like a specific norm there, or I can elaborate on examples, but I was just curious if there's any comments or insights you had on respect to the elderly in general.
Well, I mentioned it yesterday. Were you with us yesterday?
I was not, Maharaj.
We mentioned it yesterday. You know, the context that was mentioned was Canto 1, Chapter 8, text number 5. Queen Kunti's prayers, Chapter 8. So the context was, in the beginning of Chapter 8, the Kurukshetra battle is over, and they're doing the funeral rites, and there's a lot of grief floating around. People feeling really bad about massacre of so many persons and so forth and so on and so on. So there's heavy feelings. And Krishna's there. So in that little section, just verse number 5, Prabhupada writes in the purport, in the times before Kali Yuga, there was the platform of respect extended to different persons, and they were given protection. That was the way that the respect was shown, is they were protected. So that list 5, one of them was the elderly, and the benefits of the elderly. Hear the recording. But specific, you know, you didn't ask me specifically what's there in Gaura Lila that's like that, because that's what I just spoke about. But the principle, there's a number of lists of respect should go to children, to cow, to the persons in position, to the elderly, to the learned, and so forth. This respect should be extended for preservation and upkeep of society. You know, a healthy, well-situated society. So, you know, that statement, just go back to the introduction that I made at the very beginning of yesterday. It's from my perspective, it's one of the reasons why we're doing this whole exercise of having a seminar on Vaisnava etiquette, is to help, through training and education, how persons who are less than civilized or less than highly cultured can become more highly cultured, or more civilized, or more, you know, exhibiting the character and quality of a Vaishnava, so that we, as devotees, in our association with one another, and are extending the opportunity to come into the association of devotees to others that aren't yet devotees, to be a good example. And, you know, and people will evaluate the ISKCON, or the Hare Krishna movement, based upon their interactions with each of us. Although each of us we're not ISKCON, but we're part of ISKCON. So, like it or not, that, you know, if somebody messes up, somebody does something inappropriate or harsh, or, you know, not thoughtful at all, it hurts the individual or the recipient. I mean, there's some statement, you know, you do something bad and it goes out to 100 people. You do something good, maybe a few people will hear. So we want to avoid misconduct, and you know, we want to be respectful to everyone, and commensurate to the way that they should be respected. Different persons respected in different ways. Even, you know, going back to Subal's question, even one may have to say something that's, you know, recommending, please don't cross this line, sir. You know, in the workplace, or circumstances in life. Okay. Yes, Premananda.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. The principles of respect and the different categories that you have listed.
Yeah.
It was prevalent and it was a natural thing.
Yes.
In this previous generation, even.
Yes.
So the current generation, all of us, it's not like so far away, because almost, I'm sure, all cultured people must have known that, what that respect really is. We have seen it in the lives of other people who lived prior to us. But we see in this present generation itself, total lack of it.
No,
Quite a bit.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, it is there. so what happened between just one generation? Even the most obvious thing, that one should.
It's Kali Yuga. You want to know why? It's getting darker. And each generation says the same thing about the prior, the subsequent generation. It's Kali Yuga. What to do? That's the why, what to do. The golden age within the iron age, that's what to do. The mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what does that look like? And how do you do it? And, all those nice questions. But that's the antidote to the poison. Knowingly people are drinking poison and they're behaving in poisonous ways and poisoning other people. Because that's what you do in the age of Kali. It accelerates. So you're doing it. Keep doing it. And encourage others. I mean, part of it, for those of you that are in the room, she's one of the main instigators for what we're doing. Not the only one, but it's important to her that not just we get along better, but we by training and education become better examples of Vaisnava Sadachar. Because, look around the room. How many persons in the room are from India? And then, that's the cream of the crop. Compared to, the rest. Anyways. And we're not refined. It's because we're victims of Kali Yuga. So we have something. There's piety plus, and then there's some scars, some bad experiences, and some bad association, and bad habits, and all that. And some of them we gave up, and some of them they're still clinging to. So now what? And, again, what about 50 years from now? And what are we doing today to help the 50 years from now be better than just everything keeps going down and down? So it's Krishna Bhakti. That's purposeful. And then what does it look like? That's part of the reason I'm doing this, using this approach of stories or narrations from the scriptures. Someone else? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I just want to express my gratitude when I was very new back in 2005 in Palatine, you had given a lecture on the topic of respect. And
I don't remember.
I still have the recording. And that lecture impacted me so much. I would listen to it every day.
Really?
For I don't know how many times I might have listened to that one lecture. And I feel such resonance with this topic. And I can say that that lecture really changed me so much. And I feel that I received so much protection from just sticking to that principle of respect. And somehow this topic brings back so many nice memories. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing. I don't remember what I did in 2005, though. Okay. Up front, Sri Radhika. And you, Juna Jivana, you're next. Huh? Huh? Ladies before gentlemen. He's the gentleman. And you're the lady.
Guru Maharaj, some of these items that we are hearing about, whether it's respect for elders or offering respects with body, mind and words, are also spoken of in the secular world or just in terms of morality.
Yeah.
And I would like some clarification regarding when we are speaking of these within the context of Bhagavad Dharma.
Yes.
How are we, either embellishing or distinguishing them from what we might have grown up with in terms of how to respect and so forth?
Well, if I understand your question correctly, you're looking for the distinction. Is there a distinction? What is the distinction between morality and Bhagavad Dharma? The principle of respect in morality and the principle of respect in Bhagavad Dharma. You're looking for the distinction. Somewhere, in the past couple of months, had this nice discussion with a devotee that was indicating those principles of goodness, of non-violence, and living a life in goodness, we also do. So, what's the difference? Anyway, it's not when you become a devotee, the characteristics, the lakshana of the quality of goodness are no longer relevant. They're very relevant, but then the spiritualization of those is the essence. The essence is to do these things that are in the quality of goodness, like just this particular item of respect or anything else that's of morality for Krishna, for the pleasure of Krishna. And then there's layers of some person saying that it's for Krishna or for Allah or from Christ or for God or something, and it doesn't really speak to the principle. I mean, for example, what my thought is right now going to Cardinal Daniel Yu and Prabhupada, asking him, does it say in the Bible, thou shalt not kill? Yes. Could you please explain to me why you kill animals? It was confrontational. Said, well, your question. He wasn't pointing the finger at him and shaking his finger, but he was asking. And, the cardinal got flustered. Maybe some of you have seen the video of that interview. Yogeshwar is the translator, and the cardinal speaking in French, and all of that. And the conclusion was animals have no soul. So Prabhupada asked, where does it say that in the Bible? And so Shastra is the standard. He didn't question the authority of the Bible. He was speaking on the authority of the Bible. Where does it say in the Bible that animals have no soul? There's no such statement. But he's a cardinal, etc. So morality, my response to your question is morality, question mark? What is the standard? Like, what's happiness? What's morality? What's right? And then you're going to get many different answers. But does anybody really know what morality is? There's some fundamental things, but what is it? What is the standard? And so you refine that, pursue it, and it comes to connection with the highest authority, the supreme authority. And then that's the gold standard. And until then, it's a reflection of what morality is. And with a little inconvenience, morality goes out the window. Animals have no soul. Sleight of hand, and there they go. So that's just an example, but it's speaking in principle. What's morality, anyways? Who knows? And you ask different people, and they have different ideas of what morality is. So then, what's the authority of what morality is? That's the Scripture, and then who understands Scripture? Really. So Bhagavad Dharma is where the standard is from the Bhagavan, and he establishes the standard, and the bhakta follows the standard because for the pleasure of the one who gave the standard, and that's high. It's not ordinary, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You got the microphone, use it.
Maharaj, I have two questions. The first one, I've been rehearing the Vyas Puja lectures on the seed of bhakti. And is it true that the more I am clear about what the seed of bhakti I have received, that mati, that resolute determination to serve Krishna, to please Krishna, the more I'm clear about it in my own heart, the more I can genuinely offer respect to those that have devotion.
It sounds like you're asking a rhetorical question. The answer is yes. Unless I didn't understand what you were saying. A jewel, a diamond, or some jewel, is a jewel, and then you polish and you polish and polish it, and it's the same jewel, but it'll sparkle.
In part, I was asking that question.
So that's the polishing is proportionate to one's understanding of what the seed, the essence of bhakti is, the seed of bhakti is, and you stay there with it. That's the polishing of the jewel, or that's the essence of what bhakti is. Because we're all practicing. Thank you for bringing this up. We're all practicing bhakti, more or less, and how to make it more, or what does more look like?
Part of the reason I was asking the question because we were discussing yesterday that a lot of times those that carry bhakti, and a significant portion of it, they, in certain settings, they're not offered the respect that they probably do. And we were considering what that is. And I was reflecting on this topic. If I don't really realize or understand what bhakti is, then I may not be able to offer that to someone who deserves it.
You're saying it's rhetorical again. It's obvious. It's same message that I discussed yesterday when visiting in Atlanta at the Self-Discovery Center. The topic was relationships. And if you don't know who you are, and you don't know who the other person is, and you try to have a relationship, it's dysfunctional. You can be sincerely dysfunctional.
My second question is stemming off from Subal Prabhu's comment, and the context is there's a power differential, there's a person of authority,
Yes.
and there's a person that's lesser, inferior, whatever.
Yes.
And the person who's in the lower position, in their heart are offering respect, yet it is read or misinterpreted by the superior person as disrespect. That then leads to all kinds of consequences.
Well, that's one scenario, and there's n numbers of scenarios that could be outlined.
What would be your recommendation for the person in that lower position that is being misunderstood, and his desire for respect is seen as disrespect?
Desire, the student's desire for respect?
The student's expression of respect is interpreted as disrespect. What advice would you give them?
It depends. So the circumstance is going to help determine the answer to your question. You know, here's a little menu of possibles and possibles and possibles, and then it could be any one of those. You want to hear some examples? A fundamental position that's a safe position because it's so fundamental is the assumption that I'm not yet at this, I'm not pure in my bhakti yet. I'm not there yet. So I may be reading that I'm being, misunderstood when in fact you are being understood, and you misunderstand the signal from the person you're looking up to. And my duty, my function, Prabhupada uses the word my business, is to become pure. And I'm not there yet. So it could be any number of things going on that I'm not clear, but one thing is clear, I'm not there yet. So from the position, that a fundamental response is, let me take care of what's over here, not take care of what's over there. Foremost. What can I do to make the inside more pure? For me, teaching Madhurya Kandamini was a big eye-opener. The anarthas remain right up to and touching the stage above a bhakti. So my responsibility in dealing with someone who's in the more elevated position out of the different categories of elevated positions, my business is to ensure that they are what they're supposed to be. My business is to make my heart pure. That's my business. And to the degree that is there, then Super Soul and Shastra and Guru Sadhu Shastra can enter and clean the holy name. I can get to that place where my heart is pure by that principle, just acknowledging I'm not there yet, and I need to make this pure. That's my business. I may have misunderstood. I may have been misunderstood. I'd be so many maybes. But one thing is not clear, unclear. I need to make this more clear, more pure. Fundamental. And then carry on. Acharya Nishta wants to add something to this.
Just for the discussion, sake of discussion, I just had a few thoughts a little more on Sri Radhika's question, just to express...
His question or her question?
Her question.
Okay.
My understanding, the importance of etiquette is so much because to preserve society and to have harmonious dealings, but in Vaishnavism it's really to allow the right mood from which we can receive from the sadhus, because the bhakti descends from a person. So without the proper culture of etiquette, you're stunting your own growth. I mean, it's synonymous with avoiding offenses. We can say positive respect, but the negative would be avoiding offense. So the material world, there's a type of respect, but it doesn't go to that point where Vaishnava respect is going to allow the relationship to facilitate the flow of bhakti. Without respect, you cannot receive bhakti because you cannot respect its source, where it's coming from, the devotee. So anyway, this may be obvious, but that's how I was understanding it. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Does that respond to your question? Yes or no? Okay. You want to add something further? Okay. Amara, you get the last question. Keep it short. You have to turn the button on the microphone.
Maharaj, I had 2 quick questions, small, if that is okay.
We'll see how small.
Maharaj, we learned today different, respect to human, respect to devotion, and I was contemplating on this, that super soul being in our heart and we being parts and parcels of Krishna, this itself is not a big enough reason, good enough reason to respect others and all these other categories.
That is a good enough or is not a good enough?
That is a good enough.
It is good enough, okay. Whew. Okay.
So, because all these categories are there, but are they including everything?
They're refinements. You take the principle My example is the horse pulls the cart. In the cart, there's lots of stuff, but the horse pulls the cart. So you talk about the stuff, but you can't talk about the stuff without the horse that pulls the cart. So there's details and details and refinements. Okay?
Yes. And second question was, in various principles we see that positive is also given.
Which is given?
In principles we see that one positive do is given and don't is also given. So
Shri Radhika.
Do's and don'ts are given for the principles.
Okay. Thank you.
So, we see in some examples, there was a seemingly confrontation or this last pastime that we heard. So, not imitating, but there is a place for rejection also, rejecting also.
Well, he's the personality of Godhead, and he's chastising his devotee. He has the authority to do that, to chastise. He's his devotee. And his devotee got it. His devotee came the next day and paid his obeisances.
Yes.
One day, Jagannath Mishra, you'll understand who your son is. I mean, so the power differential, using that modern term, he had the power. But he was mocking him, making fun of him, laughing at him. Purpose, to get him to understand, I don't approve of what you're doing. Tomorrow I'll show you. You don't believe what you say. You have this philosophy, but you don't believe your philosophy. So give up this business. So power differential properly exercised, but the intimacy was such that he could do what he did, including mocking, including passing urine on his lunch. Now, is that?
I didn't want to extend much, but what is the application when we fall in certain situation?
What should you do? You don't imitate.
What is our application point in this?
The application point is humor. When you have a relationship, the application point, when you have a relationship with someone where it's clear that they respect you, he respected Nimai. He had love for him. But, they're going in these two different directions. Then you can exercise. You don't have to do it this way or have to do it that way. But the interest is the well-being of the other person, and that's what was achieved. He knew how to do it, and it was achieved.
Thank you.
Okay. Prantibahu, you had a question at the end of yesterday, and you didn't get to ask it. You want to ask it today? You remember what the question was?
Yes, Maharaj, that was different. I have a question today.
Oh.
Maharaj, we are talking about refinement, and in Bhagavad Gita 3.33, Krishna says, even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature, for everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish? So I wanted to understand that we are being given instructions to refine Rupa Goswami and everyone.
Yes.
So how do we reconcile this statement?
Nature can change. It can become elevated. It can become degraded. Krishna's words are not false. And this other statement is also true. And it's true. One's nature can change. Up and down. So therefore what? Krishna consciousness. It elevates. So the lower becomes left behind and the higher becomes prominent. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
In my personal observation, I've seen that it's very slow change in general. The change is very slow.
Okay. Keep going. Slow, fast. Keep going. For some persons it's more swift, some persons it's more slow.
Thank you.
Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.